This gingerbread house cake is made with round cake layers that are easy to bake and frost, a snowy roof with a dusting of fresh snow, and best of all, edible glass windows with flickering candlelight inside. For the cake layers, I'm using my very vanilla cake recipe baked in 4 6-inch pans, and once they're cool, cut out the middle of 3 of them using a 2-inch cookie cutter. This will make just enough space to put an electric candle or tea light in the middle eventually. To make edible glass, pour sugar and water and corn syrup into a stainless steel pan and heat over medium. If you can't find corn syrup, you can use glucose, but it will make the glass a bit foggy. The corn syrup or glucose will keep the glass hard, so it doesn't melt. Use a candy thermometer to watch the temperature, and when it gets to 310 degrees Fahrenheit, plunge the pan into a pot of iced water to stop the cooking process. Then pour the mixture into a square silicone mold. This is an ice cube tray for those big square ice cubes that are so trendy in cocktails, and they're the perfect size for the windows on this cake. Make 4 squares, or 5 to have an extra just in case. When these cool after about 30 minutes, you can pop them out of the mold, and they'll be about the same height as each of your cake layers, which makes making the windows really easy later. Make chocolate buttercream by melting chocolate chips, and then after they cool, add them to butter, powdered sugar or icing sugar, salt, and vanilla. Set aside about a cup of white buttercream first for decorations on the gingerbread house later. Trace around your cookie cutter onto the middle of a 6-inch cake board and cut out that little circle. Spread some buttercream onto the cake board and press your first cake layer down onto it, one of the ones with a hole in the middle. Put this onto a bigger cake board. This is 10 inches wide. Spread chocolate buttercream on top of this layer and into the hole too to cover those cut sides, which will stop the cake from drying out because the buttercream will lock the moisture into the cake. Then with the edible glass, hold one square against the edge of another cake layer and cut the cake on either side of the square to make space for a window. Do this 3 times, making one section of cake bigger than the others to leave space for a door. Also, trace around a window onto parchment paper or wax paper and fold that paper in half twice, and then cut out the square to make 4 square pieces of paper, which you'll use for the windows later. Press one section of cake down onto the chocolate buttercream and hold a window up next to it to measure where to place the next piece of cake, and repeat for the other 2 windows. Spread chocolate buttercream in between the sections of cake to cover where you cut the hole out of the middle and also the side sections too. And then slide the windows into the gaps you left so that they're just within the cake, but as close as possible to the outside. Spread chocolate buttercream onto the top of this cake layer and also onto the top of the 3rd cake layer with a hole in the middle. And spread it around the hole in the middle too. And flip this over to go on top of the cake. Wrap the cake in cling film or saran wrap and put it into the fridge for 30 minutes or the freezer for 15 minutes to chill, so it firms up. And then, to hold the cake in place on its smaller cake board, on top of the larger cake board, use a piece of non-slip mat or a ring of masking tape. Next, you'll need the 4 pieces of parchment paper you traced and cut out earlier. Press one onto each window to cover and protect the edible glass and keep it shiny, and then spread a layer of buttercream onto the top of the cake and push 4 boba straws or wooden dowels into the cake. Because for the roof you'll need support so that it doesn't sink down into the bottom of the house. Cut the straws or dowels to be the same height as the cake. If you're enjoying this tutorial, please subscribe to my channel and tap join to become a member for exclusive perks like access to my perfectly smooth frosting course. Place a cake board on top, pushing it down to stick it to the chocolate buttercream. This should be the same width as the cake, so it will be invisible later, and it will hold up the roof. Use more buttercream to attach the final cake layer on top, the one without a hole in the middle, and then arrange the cut sections of the cake on top to form the roof, the parts you cut out to make space for the windows and also the round pieces from the middle of the other cake layers. Attach them to each other by spreading on buttercream as glue to make a pile on top of the cake. Put the whole cake into the fridge for another 30 minutes or the freezer for 15 minutes, and then use a serrated knife to trim around the pieces of cake to make a cone shape for the roof. Crumb coat the outside of the cake by spreading a thin layer of buttercream over it to trap any crumbs that come off the cake. It doesn't need to be neat because it's going to be covered up soon. Put the cake into the fridge for 30 minutes to set the frosting and then spread another layer of frosting over the roof and the walls of the house. Since the roof is cone-shaped, a cake comb isn't the best way to get it smooth. A piece of acetate is ideal since it can curve around easily and leaves the surface smoother. A cake comb is fine for the bottom of the house though. Don't worry too much about the join between the walls and the roof because it's going to be covered up soon. To peel the parchment off the windows, press gently with a toothpick until you find the edge, and then pry it up and pull it off. The windows underneath will be clean instead of smeared and smudged with buttercream. You can decorate the house however you like. I put the leftover chocolate buttercream into a piping bag with a medium round piping tip, a number 8, to pipe a frame around each window. The top and the sides, not the bottom edge, because I'm going to put snow down there. I'm tinting about 2 tablespoons of buttercream red for a door. Cut a door shape out of parchment paper to make a stencil and press it against the frosted cake. And spread the red buttercream over it, and then peel it off. Piping little dots of chocolate buttercream around the door gives it a nice trim. This is a flat round gold sprinkle as a doorknob. Add some milk to the rest of the white buttercream so that it's soft and smooth and easily stirrable, which will make it look more like snow. Use a small round piping tip and pipe this buttercream snow along the bottom edge of each window, making drips as if it's starting to melt. I'm using a piping tip to score semicircles or scallops onto the roof to give it a tiled look, and then piping snow over them using plain white buttercream and a small round piping tip, wiggling the lines and piping some drips to make it look like snow. I'm adding a few simple details, like dots around the windows and some hearts and curvy lines up here. And then, as a finishing touch, put a spoonful of powdered sugar into a sieve and tap it over the cake to dust it with what looks like snow. Put this into the fridge to chill and set, and then it's time to add the candlelight. Slide an offset spatula or palette knife underneath the cake and pick it up on its little cake board. Put a battery-operated tea light onto the middle of the big board and then lower the cake down over it, attaching the boards together with some buttercream so the cake doesn't slide around when you carry it. I'm piping some of the leftover chocolate buttercream around the bottom of the cake too, which covers up the join of the cake on its little cake board and looks pretty too. I love the flickering candlelight you can see through the windows, and you can eat every part of the cake, including the windows. To serve the cake, cut down into the roof until you feel the knife hit the cake board in the middle, and slice up the roof, and then lift up the cake board in the middle and slice the bottom part of the house. Tell me in the comments if you're going to make this and ask me any questions there too. And visit my cake school on britishgirlbakes.com to learn hundreds of cake decorating techniques and designs with my online courses and memberships. See you there!